Pentagon expands its technological edge. New warnings are emerging about who's backing America's adversaries. At the hearing yesterday, General Dan Kane signaling that the Russian government is assisting the Iranian regime in its war with the United States. The highest-ranking U.S. general responding affirmatively to a question about whether there is Russian involvement, speaking at yesterday's Senate hearing. General Dan Kane put it this way, saying, "I think there's actions and activities. I'm mindful of the hearing room we're in, but there's definitely some action there." And to discuss the latest on Iran is Kervin Aucoin, joining us now, former lead intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance coordinator for the U.S. Army. So, Kervin, good afternoon. Thank you for being here today, as always. So, Trump told reporters that the only two options at hand right now for Iran is come to a deal or the U.S. is going to bomb them. So from what you've seen deep down, does the Iranian regime right now want to make a deal with the U.S.?
Well, first of all, Don, it's always good to talk to you. It's great to be here. And you put up a perfect question as the first question here. Does the Iranian regime want to make a deal? I think, first of all, what we need to figure out is who is running Iran right now. They're rolling out, commentary from the supreme leader who can't talk, who is, for all intents and purposes, in a coma at this point. So who is controlling Iran right now? If it is the IRGC, I would say they do not want to make a deal with the United States. If there is a moderate leadership within Iran, I think that moderate leadership does want to make a deal. And I think that the headlines miss the point here. If you're pulling from Iranian media is going to say that, they have won this conflict and they should not make a deal. But leadership within Iran, that moderate leadership, the president of Iran, I believe, does want to make a deal to stop what the United States has done, which has completely collapsed the economy and the military of Iran right now.
Okay, so let's say if the IRGC is in control of Iran right now, you said it doesn't want to make a deal. So on this point specifically, if the IRGC is in control, why does it prefer to not make a deal and have potentially its critical infrastructure destroyed?
Yeah, it's a great question. Why would they not want to make a deal? Because they don't want to seem weak. Because a weak Iran, this is what actually got Iraq into a war with the United States, right? So Saddam Hussein would not admit that he did not have weapons of mass destruction because he knew that if he admitted that Iran would attack him. So Iran and the IRGC understands if they present themselves as weak, as somebody that would capitulate to Western powers, and quite honestly, those Middle Eastern powers of Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, they would seem weak to those countries, and they would lose their influence in the region. They would lose influence over Hezbollah. They would lose influence over Hamas and the Houthis in Yemen. So that's what the IRGC is trying to hold on to, is this fractured power that they have over certain parts of the Middle East.
But I guess then the immediate question after that is, let's say President Trump goes ahead with the bombing of critical infrastructure. Can the IRGC survive after the fact?
Absolutely not. If the U.S. goes full force, shock and awe across Iran through critical infrastructure, they would not survive. The IRGC knows that. So what they're doing right now is playing this game of, or this balance of projecting power publicly while also privately having conversations with the United States. And we just found out, today that they have actually put together a new proposal for a peace plan with the United States. That is something that they tried to put out privately between the mediators in Pakistan, but that has come out. And so now we know they are trying to come to an agreement, but they want to come to an agreement where they don't look weak, where it doesn't feel like they've capitulated to the United States. And that's why what's still on the table are uranium enrichment and the fact that Israel will not attack their proxies. That is what they feel is the real threat here, is that Israel is going to gain control of the Middle East by pivoting towards those same powers, the Qatar, the UAE, Jordan, countries of that magnitude.
Okay, so this deal that Iran has proposed, how much do you think is that a result of the pressure from the blockade of Iranian ports in the Strait of Hormuz? How much pressure is that putting on Iran that their oil containers are filling up?
Well, Don, as an intelligence analyst, I don't like to work in absolutes. I always like to work in probabilities. But for this time, I would say 100% that this is because of the pressure that's being put on in the Strait of Hormuz. We've talked about this before. The millions of dollars that Iran is losing every single day that the U.S. blockade is open right now, and so they are losing. We are seeing there are some reports that there is a complete collapse of the economy in Iran. And look, it's not so much about the pressure that the U.S. has towards that shock and all those missiles that they can drop on Iranian soil. I think what we will see in the near future, if the IRGC does not come to a peace agreement with the United States and the economy collapses, is that just like anywhere, when an economy collapses, the people will rise up and they will go after whoever they perceive as in a leadership. So right now it's perceived that the IRGC is leading Iran. If that economy absolutely collapses, the people will rise up. And the people in the borders of Iran, that is the most dangerous thing that can attack the IRGC right now.
Okay, so of course we have to assume that what you just said right now, the Iranian regime fully understands and has taken that into consideration as part of its calculus in this whole thing. So my question is, does it fear internal unrest more, or does it fear external pressure or threats more?
So we're talking about internal unrest as the Iranian people. I don't think they have any worries about fractures within the IRGC, but they absolutely worry about the Iranian people and their fractures of the civilian population. I'd also say another indicator, we always talk about indicators and warnings in the intelligence community. One of the indicators to look for here is if the Iranian military, which is outside of the IRGC, if the Iranian military starts to back the Iranian people and they start to fracture, at that point, the IRGC has lost control. You have a coup within Iran, and I definitely believe through my experience in the Middle East that is the most dangerous thing for the IRGC. And if they identify that the Iranian military is turning against them, they will for sure try to come to an agreement with the United States that also allows them to retain power and open up their economy.
Okay, so when you say it's extremely dangerous that there's unrest with the Iranian people, the Iranian people protesting, this danger, is it potentially a change in ideology of the Iranian regime or full change of the regime due to these Iranian protests?
Yeah, I think if something like that happens, the IRGC, they still remember those images of Gaddafi, right? We all remember that happening when the people overtook and the disturbing images of what they did to Gaddafi in Libya. And that is the dangerous thing. That is the most dangerous course of action that can happen right now. And so what does that mean? That means people pulling the IRGC into the streets and making, showing a force against them. And if they have the military, if the people of Iran have the Iranian military backing that, that means an entire collapse of the IRGC. And you no longer have an IRGC backed in a corner. You have them dragged into the streets as a public display of violence to the world.
Okay, just one final question, Kervin. Is it completely necessary to have the Iranian, or not the Iranian, the Israeli military backing the Iranian people in terms of protest or overthrowing the regime? Because the Iranian people on its own, they don't have weapons, right? So do they need the help of Israel?
That is such a great question, Don. I think Israel would find itself in a bad way if they would try a regime change, if they would back the people of Iran. I always talk about this. The U.S. is not very good with regime change. Israel not very good with regime change. I don't think that is that is one country that is really bad at something. I think all countries who attempt this. Look, we tried. We, meaning the United States, the UK, Western forces tried this with Russia during World War II, and it failed miserably to try to collapse the Soviet Union there. So I would pause and I would push back against regime change that is forced upon by the likes of the United States or Israel. But I do think that the Iranian people are ready to rise up. And I think that's going to be something that the Iranian military is going to have to be a part of, not so much some Western forces. We've got to get out of this habit of trying to solve Middle Eastern problems with Western ideals.
Okay, well said, Kervin. Thank you for speaking with us today.
Don, as always, it's been a pleasure, and stay safe out there.
Thank you. The national average price of gas